Just think, one more week and it's over. Just one. One more week and it's done until November. And there's another one. This is the Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Join you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you as always for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines. It is incredibly appreciated. I hope you've had a fantastic week and I hope you're ready to enjoy a relaxing weekend. I know I am. And speaking of which, tomorrow morning's show will be a roundup of the season so far. I'm away this weekend, and it's for the missus' birthday. So, to be honest, what I was going to do to remedy that was effectively promise that I would have a morning off. But having a morning off means that I don't want to leave you guys and girls without any content on a morning show. So I have already pre-ordered, I suppose technically you're pre-recorded an episode for you tomorrow with James Green from Sky and Guy Clark from The Athletic, talking all about Arsenal's season so far, the individual members of the squad, where we're at right now, the impact of potentially Saka's absence and what that could have on the team. So all of those things I think need to be taken into account. So please do listen in tomorrow morning show, 8 a.m, bright and early. Go and check it out. And I wish you all a fantastic Sunday because I won't be there live to tell you so. But please do be there. Encourage people to press a like button and all of that lovely stuff. And speaking of the like button, we've got to have a talk, a quick chat, because you don't want to annoy the people that hate my long introductions too much. But this comment from Gooner Works yesterday, it really hurt me. And it's not your fault. It's my fault. Gooner Works yesterday saying RIP to the 1K everyday challenge. Now, as you all know, the other day when we recorded a phone-in show, which was different to our usual news show, I was like, I don't expect this show to hit our usual daily heights. I really don't expect it to hit our usually daily heights for a live morning show. But you know what? And I didn't monetize it either. I didn't monetize that phone-in show. It was a very, it was just about, chatting with you guys and girls on the episode to get your thoughts on that. It got 904 likes, which is still brilliant considering the fact that, we try and reach 1K every single day. But then yesterday's show, which is only 2 days after that, is sitting on 991, which is so close. And to be honest, if I said nothing, it would probably still reach that 1K every day. But I feel like I've been slacking. I feel like I've been too, expectant maybe of people to drop a press on the like. But it's the international break. The mood is low. The morning is, it's just not as fun, is it, without football? So here I am asking if we can continue this 1K everyday challenge and not, as Gooner Works says, let it die. So don't let the 1K everyday like challenge die just because it's the international break. Just because they're off on their jollies playing international football doesn't mean we need to be slacking. So make sure, if you haven't pressed the like button already, please make sure that you do it. If you're over on those audio platforms, thank you for catching up. First of all, head over to YouTube and press that button. Damon says, Tom, you're taking us and our likes for granted. I am, and I'm sorry. So I hope that you can forgive me and will press that like button in support of the channel. Let's jump into today's stories. Of course, it's a massive day in the WSL for Arsenal as they take on Chelsea. My goodness me, I've asked for likes. The sexists in the chat box are not going to like this now. I'm talking about women's football. But yes, Arsenal do play Chelsea in the WSL. Kickoff today is at 1:45 UK time, of course, at the Emirates Stadium. I don't think it's sold out. So if you want to grab some last-minute tickets and you're free on a Saturday, go down and give the girls your support. They're in a real tough moment right now, and they need as many supporters as we feasibly can to get down to the Emirates and give them all the backing that they absolutely deserve. It is without question, though, a massive day for Jonas Eidevall. Lose this game, it could be... I say it could be. I genuinely don't know. I don't know at all when or if Arsenal would make the decision to move him from Jonas Eidevall. But losing today would, I think, be a significant blow. It would leave Arsenal very far behind the title chasers and even the Champions League places, I think, at the moment as well, after the frustrating start to the season that they have had. So after drawing to the bottom placed Everton, last week. So that is genuinely a concern. So huge day on the WSL front. Let's see if indeed they can respond to it. Another interesting story for you. Sam C reporting here, understanding that the following set of rules, and this is obviously more so, it affects everybody, but from a media perspective, I'm quite interested in this. So from next season, these rules will be introduced where clubs have to choose one of these 3 options listed above every single week. Halftime interview with a player or the coach, interviews for players who are subbed off, and dressing room broadcasts. That is the choice. So halftime interview can be, of course, with an assistant coach potentially as well, which I think maybe what Arsenal lean towards. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like this is too much. I know that I really like getting behind, and I'm speaking from the perspective of someone that would benefit from this type of thing, but I feel like this might be too much. I feel like this might be something of a little bit of a distraction for the players and for the coaches. It would be a contractual obligation, of course, for a player or a coach to have a halftime interview, or the substitutions of the players that come off would be interviewed, or indeed the dressing room would be broadcast. I cannot see Arteta being a fan of the dressing room being broadcast, and have that period of time where he's talking to his players, giving them insight, because surely you'd have somebody from the opposition teams just watching it and relaying back what the tactics are at half time. That would be madness. Absolute madness if they were to do that. So, yeah, I really don't really understand that side of it. But it's interesting, I guess, to see the next kind of development, if you like, in in media, in broadcasting. But I can't say at the moment I'm too much of a fan of this. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and we'll read through them. The final 2 stories to discuss this morning revolve around Bukayo Saka. One is good news. One is, well, it's not good news, but it's very different. The good news is that the injury, of course, sustained by Bukayo Saka that saw him come off the field for England against Greece, there's a lot of positive feeling around this at the moment. There's a lot of rumours and whispers flying around that it's hoped that this is not a serious problem, and that a scan will be undertaken by the England staff. Lee Carsley, of course, will be speaking to the media, I believe, today to give an update on the situation. So we should know more. Of course, I'm not live tomorrow morning, so I can't give you that breaking live reaction to it, but we'll talk about it more on Monday. But yes, it is a very strange scenario where we're kind of in this limbo, this purgatorial state, where Bukayo Saka, his injury is hoped is not to be too serious, and that there's kind of a positive feeling that this won't be too bad. So I'm keeping fingers crossed. It seems that there is reason to be optimistic, and hopefully, indeed, if he is missing for any amount of time, it will be a very short period of time before he then, of course, does return. So that is positive. The not good news is this story that came out yesterday from a friend of the show and Telegraph journalist Sam Dean. I'm going to read directly from the article to the best of my ability as I can for some of the words. Of course, I won't be able to repeat for reasons that will become very obvious as we go on. So the article describes a law student who called Bukayo Saka, quote, a monkey, has avoided a jail sentence. Suhail Ali, who is of Nigerian heritage, says that he did not intend the message to be racist. Suhail Ali is a 20-year-old Arsenal fan and responded to the club's defeat by Nottingham Forest in May of last year by posting an audio message on social media in which he also called Saka the N-word. The City University student, who is of Nigerian heritage like Saka, admitted sending an offensive message by a public communication network. He received a 12-month conditional discharge with £111 in costs. Kieran O'Donnell, who is the Westminster Magistrates Chair, said, your lawyer said your intention was not to be racist, but whoever heard it would have heard racial abuse. But you are of previous good character. You have no previous convictions. You are remorseful. Now, this story immediately, and it is a different context, but it immediately made me think of the Ian Wright story that you might remember from 2021. Now, it is, of course, a different scenario because the person involved in the Ian Wright scenario um, was, of course, a different person. The story you can read, of course, on the Sky Sports website. A teenager who admitted to racially abusing ex-Arsenal and England striker has avoided a criminal conviction. Ian Wright says he is disappointed that the Irish teenager who admitted racially abusing him on social media has escaped a criminal conviction. So this was an incident where the kind of the incident was considered to be racial abuse, whereas, of course, in the example we just talked about regarding Bukayo Saka, it was not considered to be um, a racist act because apparently the intention was deemed to be not of that nature. Now, Ian Wright put a statement out on Twitter on February 3rd of 2021. He said, "I've seen today's judgment and I'm disappointed. This case was never about revenge. It was always about consequences for acts of racism. My forgiveness of this young man was for my own deeply personal need and desire to move forward without further anguish. I'm a 57-year-old man that has experienced racism throughout my life. I wasn't expecting my forgiveness to be an invitation to lighten the sentence. Seeing this judgment, I can only wonder what deterrent there is for anyone else who spouts this kind of vile, racist abuse. An individual wished death upon me because of my skin color. No judge's claims of naivety or immaturity will ever be acceptable to us. The supposed immaturity and naivety of our attackers is never any comfort. So, yeah, I am disappointed. I'm tired. We are all tired." Ian Wright. I find myself just getting further and further disappointed at the lack of deterrence, the lack of consequences that are in existence for individuals who feel that sending vile words, no matter your background, no matter, you know, the greater context in some senses, but there's just such a ease at which people can say horrible, horrible things and get away with them and face no consequences and therefore never put off others from repeating such actions. What Bukayo Saka, what Ian Wright and others have to deal with on a daily basis is absolutely horrendous. I was reading a story this morning posted on social media of somebody just on a train up to up north who sat down next to somebody and just received vile abuse just because because they weren't from this country, and it just continues to make me feel such sadness and pain that I live in a country that sadly has still got such a huge racist and xenophobic problem. And yeah, it really spins me back as well to the other day. You may remember we did a show the other day, and I opened the show by talking about someone accusing us of not taking these topics seriously enough, not mentioning the words, and it's that hurts because we do. I feel I feel very emboldened to talk about this stuff with you and to talk about these stories with you, and it's incredibly frustrating. I genuinely hope that there aren't future incidents, but if there are future incidents, that they are, of course, dealt with swiftly, aggressively, and with far greater consequence than we are seeing currently, is just my honest opinion on that situation. But yeah, I wanted to share that story with you because I thought it was important not to skip past it. But we move to part 2 and your questions. So we're going to do that right after this. Of course, the channel is sponsored by NordVPN, which brings you the safety and security that you need while surfing the net. Perhaps you're using an online open public Wi-Fi platform in a pub or a bar or a cafe somewhere. And, when you're using these public Wi-Fi platforms, it does come with risk, and NordVPN can help to mitigate those risks by giving you that extra layer of protection. And if you go to nordvpn.com/Gooner, you can get yourself a significant discount off a 1 or a 2-year plan. And if you're not happy with the service for whatever reason, you get a 30-day money-back guarantee off of what is a fantastic way of changing geolocation digitally as well on your laptop, your mobile, or indeed your tablet devices. It's a must in 2024. Link down in the description. That's nordvpn.com/Gooner. And there is, of course, the prize to win a signed Mikel Arteta shirt, courtesy of Football Prizes. I can tell you that 86 of the 349 tickets that went on sale just a couple of days ago are left in this competition. Best of luck to all of you that are getting involved in this latest prize. So looking forward to hearing if we've got any successful winners. Right, this is part 2 of the show where we go into the chat box and tackle as many of your comments and questions as we can. So if you've got any questions and comments that you would like to put forward on anything that we've talked about, of course, today, perhaps some greater topics that you think we've missed, now is the time to talk about them. Darren says, have you heard anything regarding the rumours about Ødegaard having an injury setback? I personally have heard nothing to suggest that there has been, quote, a setback in Ødegaard's recovery. There was always kind of a sense and feeling from speaking to a number of people that this was not a short-term problem and that suggestions of potential dates of returns, I don't think correlate necessarily with a setback, and are more just a case of the more people kind of maybe getting an idea about the date that we might see Ødegaard return. But to my understanding, and of course, that has limitations, I have not heard anything regarding a setback. But I can't tell you if and when and where we will then obviously see Ødegaard return. I imagine based upon these stories that have emerged over the last couple of days, that Arteta will be asked about it next week. So we will, of course, wait to hear from Arteta on, I imagine it will be Thursday, if not Friday, will be the press conference. Maybe Friday because it was the international break. Of course. Rufus says, Tom, the shirt is fire. Thank you, mate. It's this year's very nice goalkeeper kit, which I think you can all appreciate is certainly one of the best ones that they have done. Mubarak says, Tom, give us the details about Saka, please. I wish I could give you details. I wish I had the details, Mubarak. Of course, we'll hear from Lee Carsley a little bit later on this afternoon in his press conference ahead of England's next game against Finland. He is expected to provide an update on the scan that Saka was set to undergo. Maximir says, understand the clubs have signed up for this as a majority. This is what we have to live with. I'm surprised that a team's dressing room is broadcast, but they don't have the resources to mic up a referee, which is a fair question. Back to that Saka story. Lee says, if Saka is not protected, he'll be burnt out by the time he's 28. The club and the country have a responsibility to ensure his career is long and fulfills his potential. Absolutely. SJ says, no, it's another distraction regarding potentially kind of the insight into the dressing room. They have to concentrate on the game. I can't imagine Arteta or the players being too keen on that. These are things that are voted in, obviously. I think they have to be agreed overall. I'm not sure about it being kind of the whole 14 and the 14 majority. I don't know if it relates specifically to that, but there'll be a process by which it has to go through a lot of things before it is indeed approved. Laughing Man says, if everyone is fully fit, what's your starting lineup and bench? So I use this kind of as an example. It depends obviously on the opponent, but if we've got a Champions League final tomorrow, let's say against Real Madrid, my starting 11 would be Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Rice, Marino, Ødegaard, Saka, Havertz, Martinelli. That would be my starting 11 for a Champions League final where it's to take place tomorrow, and everybody was fit. Boss says, Tom, if only Tom was sponsored by the 1K likes challenge, you would never forget to do like you do with us. It's true. It's very, very true. But, contractual obligations and all. But yes, boss, thank you for reminding me again. Please, if you haven't done so already, help us to reach 1K every single day on the challenge. And of course, we've got a couple of shows from, I think, yesterday and a couple of days ago that still need your help to reach that 1K challenge. So after you finish watching today's show, make sure you go and hop back and check that you have indeed dropped a like on those videos and help to keep our 1K streak going. AA, going back to that story regarding Saka, it says, I feel so sorry for the emotional pain all these abuses are brought by people with very little IQ to Saka just because he's a talented footballer, and it's not because he's a talented footballer that he's receiving that abuse. It's because of the color of his skin that he's received that abuse, and that's the key takeaway here, and that's what makes it so wrong. And it's just, it's incredibly saddening always to read these stories, and the frequency at which I have to read these stories and talk about these stories is so demoralizing, and it doesn't deter me from talking about them. It doesn't deter me from talking very honestly about things. And, I'm very proud of the community that we've got here. And I know that 99% of our listener base are extremely empathetic and extremely understanding of these situations. And, I'm very much against them as well, which is, you can never say 100%, because sadly some very horrible people always exist. But it's the reality of where we're at. Sean says, how valid do you think the Saliba to Madrid links are in the 2025 summer? And what is the minimum that you'd sell him for? We should sign him and Gabby up to new long-term contracts. Of course, the club will be fully aware of the contract dates at which their players expire, and there will be groundwork being made. How much do I think there is in it? I think there's a semblance of truth. I'd be shocked if a club like Real Madrid weren't interested in a player as good as Saliba. Their centre-back situation means they're going to be looking into that bracket of players, in the near future. So I think it's expected that there will be interest. Whether or not that report comes from anywhere other than just guesswork, I don't know. It's impossible to know. But it's a very predictable link to make, and it's a very predictable idea that story would eventually come out at one point in the future, because Real Madrid are going to be looking to sign the best players, and Saliba, of course, is one of those best players. I don't have a minimum price tag that I'd sell William Saliba for. I wouldn't put a number on the minimum expectation I'd expect. To me, William Saliba is a priceless piece of this squad, and not one that I would give up on at all. Fuad says, Tom, this is so Americanized at the moment regarding the NFL. The PA are trying to stop reporters from going into dressing rooms or locker rooms, as they call it, an invading of their privacy. It's very strange that clubs might allow that. I sincerely hope that it isn't allowed. I think going into dressing rooms at halftime would be a huge mistake, massive mistake, and I hope Arsenal don't allow that. And again, this is coming from the perspective of someone that enjoys access, that enjoys being able to have the privilege of speaking to Arsenal players and the manager as well. But I just think there is a line and a level that these things should go to, and that is, it's exciting in some ways, but I have my concerns. I think legitimate concerns in others as well. Callan says, have you seen the reports of Waneri being offered a new contract with wages higher than that of Luis Diaz? Is that putting more pressure on him? I haven't seen these reports, Callan. Where have these reports come from? Do let me know. I'd love to know what the source of such information is, because I can't say I've heard or read that whatsoever. Certainly, I've not heard anything to suggest that is the case. I don't know the wage of Luis Diaz, nor do I know the wage of Ethan Waneri, a 17-year-old, either. So I haven't heard that at all. James says, what's the latest on about Timber and Partey? Partey is just ill from the sounds of things. Like, it's not an injury, so hopefully he should be okay after this international break. Timber, on the other hand, I don't really have the specifics. I asked Timber myself after the game against Southampton whether or not he'd be back after the international break. He just said he hopes so. So no kind of like real detailed insight into that. But he at that time just said he hopes so. So we'll hear more on him, of course, from Mikel Arteta again in his next press conference. John says they do have resources to mic up referees because they've done it years ago with Millwall and Arsenal. No one told the Arsenal players, and Tony Adams had a very interesting conversation with David Ellery. I remember that vividly. You can go and watch, of course, that conversation, of which Tony Adams uses some flowery language, let's say, during that. Yes, it's something they can do. Something can happen. I think it would help to a degree. There was talk that referees would announce VAR decisions, but that's not happened, even though there's been VAR decisions spoken. But I've not seen it happen yet, unless it's just not had an opportunity to happen yet. But I've not seen that personally. So I guess we'll wait and see if there's any changes in that regard. Ant says, I despise all forms of racism and will call out anyone I hear, anyone in the stadium or in the street doing so. A message to all fans should be, do not ignore any racist chants to hear. And of course, if you are in the stadium and you do indeed hear any racist or indeed discriminatory chants, please do report them. You can text FOUL, I believe it is. Let me just find the actual information for you. You can text foul to 67777 with a description of the incident and the row and seat number, and it will be indeed helping to report these incidents on a match day. So yes, just text foul to 67777 together with a description of the incident, a row and seat number, and it will anonymously help to identify any potential discriminatory or racist or tragedy chanting, anything like these horrible acts. Please do help to identify them so the right action can be taken. Man, Lutata says, we just hit this 234th like. Thank you very much. Please do continue helping us out. Morgie says, is there any financial gain for the extra access? As I can't believe that any club would want to do that, let alone without some benefit. Absolutely no idea. No idea, Morgie, whatsoever. Callan says it apparently was on AFTV, so in brackets, not reliable, crying, laughing face. But saying a new contract of 60k a week, would that put added pressure on the... I mean, without doubt, but I'd love to know where the source of the information is. I mean, AFTV is obviously the people that have said it, but I'd love to know what their source of the information was. Stu says, woke up late and catching up. I cannot believe the news about halftime interviews, etc. It's absolutely ridiculous how the media bigwigs are ruining the game bit by bit, is Stu's opinion on that. Chan says, almost impossible to report the seat numbers as most are barely visible due to the rubbish conditions of the seats. This is true. If you've been to the Emirates, you'll know how hard it is actually to identify your seat number these days. They have faded beyond, in some cases, all recognition. Hopefully something that will be improved in the next round of refurbishments that are scheduled to be taking place. The Emirates needs updating. We know that there have been measures, there have been improvements made to the stadium of late to try and improve things. Screens, I think there's some improvements to kind of the concourse. So that is certainly something that will probably be undertaken, we hope, at least in the next few years. Big job undertaking, 60,000 seat number improvements. But I suppose if you bring in 120 people, that's what, 500 each that they've got to do. So I'm trying to work out the maths of it all, but yeah, it's something that certainly does need to be improved. Per Jensen says, can we afford to rotate heavily against Preston, or is the hunt for trophies, even the League Cup, too important? I think we can afford to rotate a significant amount still, yes, because if you consider the games that we've got coming up after that, after we go to Preston, which is an away game, we have to go to Newcastle, we have to go to Inter Milan, and we have to go to Chelsea. They are the next games. It's a 4-game run of 4 away matches that will be coming up after the international break. In fact, those games are are right before the next international break. So after we play Liverpool at home, we only have 2 home games between now and the next international break, believe it or not. After this break, we've got Bournemouth away. Then we have our 2 home games against Shakhtar in the Champions League, and then Liverpool at the Emirates on October 27th. Then we do not play a single game at the Emirates until after the next international break. Not a single one. Not until after I turn 30 do we have another game at home, as the fixtures again have really been strangely put together in that case. Walking Man says we must rotate against Preston. There's too many injuries and too many tough games coming up as well. Right, that is going to bring us to the end of today's show. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. If you could be ever so kind to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Tomorrow morning, there will, of course, be a show for you going out at 8 a.m., but it will be an episode where I'm joined by James Green from Sky and Guy Clark from The Athletic to talk about Arsenal's season so far, what we foresee coming up in the future, the individual pieces of news that have perhaps in some cases gone under the radar. You'll hear what I think about that when we get to the show tomorrow morning. But if you could, in the chat box whilst you are live, encourage others that are there to drop a like on the video, help us to reach that 1K target. There's a few shows this week that we're just quite a little bit short of, so do your good work and help us out during this international break. It is incredibly appreciated when you do. We've talked about some big topics today, so I'd love to know your thoughts down, of course, in the comment section below, and to get your thoughts on such things as well. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.